Okay, relax right now. This is one of the longest part of the portion, the Levi of Parsha Kisisa. The Levi gets to read this Aliyah as it is the story of the golden calf, which they didn't have part of. We're holding on chapter 31, verse 18. And it was given, and when he finished speaking, it was given to Moshe Bahar Sinai, Mountain Sinai, Shnei Luchos Eidos, two tablets of the testimony. Evan Ksuvim, they were stone tablets. Be'etzba Lakim, written with the hand of God, finger of God. Now she says, there's in the Torah, there's no chronological order to adhere to. The episode of the calf took place before the command of the work of the Mishkan. So really, Pasha Kesisa should have been before Pasha's Truma. So there's no chronological order. For the 17th of time, as the tablets are broken, on Yom Kippur, the Holy One, blessed be He, was forgave the Jewish nation. On the next day, the 11th of Tishrei, they commenced the donations of the Mishkan. So this whole story happened as I said, this Pasha Kisisa, if you want to go in chronological order, Pasha Kisisa should have been before the portion of Truma. Because they started to build the Mishkan, they started to collect for the Mishkan after Yom Kippur, which was already 80 days after the story that's going to be read right now in this portion. Now she says the word spelled kichalois. Here, however, it's spelled defectively without the vav. We're missing a vav over here, as the word kichaloisai, meaning as his bride. For the Torah was delivered to him, Moshe, as a gift, as a bride is given to the bridegroom, because otherwise we're not able to learn so much in a short time. How is it possible to learn the whole Torah so quickly? But he was given as a gift. That's what we say, Nasa, the Eibishter gives us Torah as a gift. And we all have the Torah as a gift. We don't have to, it takes us easier, much faster to learn the Torah when you have it as a gift. Another explanation, Nasa, the bride is adorned with 24 ornaments. The one listed in the book of Isaiah, so too must the Torah scholar be adorned with 24 books of scripture, which is the 24 books of the Torah. To speak to him, chukim, mishpatim, sheve'ela mishpatim. He does finish telling him the whole parshas mishpatim, which we learned a couple of weeks ago. The dabrite, what does that mean? The words with teaches us that Moshe would hear the law, like from God, and then would repeat it, the halacha together. The dabrite. So Moshe Rabbeinu heard it from God, and he repeated it. So this is also we learned, because we know that's what happened. He taught it to Aaron, Aaron repeated it. So when you repeat it in front of the person who taught it to you, he can tell you if you said it correctly. You need to repeat something in the front of somebody who taught you something. Luchais, Tein, Shavis, over here, the teachers, they were all the same size. This is when the Rebbe said that the luchas were not round. If they were round, they were the different sides. But they were box. They were simple box. Chapter 32, verse number 1. The people said that Moshe was late coming. Moshe was late. First Jew that was late. And the Jewish people gathered on Aaron. They told him, come, let's make a god. That will go before us. Because this Moshe, this man, at the time it took us out of the land of Egypt. We don't know what happened to him. He has disappeared. She says, as the Targum says it, Ichor, he was late. As it's brought down other psukim, as a chariot, Boishesh, they waited bush. When Moshe went up the mountain, he said to them, at the end of 40 days, I'll come. Within 6 hours of sunrise of the 40th day, they thought that the day he went was included in the number. But in fact, he had said to them 40 days, meaning complete days, including the night. But the day that he went up was not the night. He went up in the daytime. So actually the day that he went up is not included. And that was their mistake. It was a mistake, not in a couple of hours, a mistake in a whole day. But the day they ascended is not included in the day, because Moshe ascended in the morning. On the 17th day of Sivan, he ascended the mountain. On the 7th day of Sivan, he ascended the mountain. Thus, 40 days of Moshe absence was the 17th day of Tammuz. So that's the day he was supposed to come down, the 7th day of Tammuz. which he came down on the 17th of Tammuz. On the 16th of Tammuz, they thought already it was the 40th day. The Sultan came and brought a confusion into the world and showed them the semblance of darkness, even pitch darkness, confusion. They saw that there was action going up Lamaila, indicating Moshe had died. They saw there was a lot of darkness in the heavens. They thought maybe there was a tragedy above, and Moshe Rabbeinu has died. And that's why he's not coming down. Moshe Rabbeinu died, and the 6 hours, additional hours already passed, and not come down. As it brought down in the Gemara Shabbos. Can't say that the Jews were erring the cloudy day. They were confused between forenoon and afternoon because Moshe did not descend until the next day. So there was not a mistake in an hour or two. Moshe Rabbeinu came down at over 20 hours later. So Moshe Rabbeinu came down the right day. So they were confused on the whole day. She says, Yelchu is a plural. They will go before us. So they were, again, these are, as Rashi can say, these were the 8 of Rav. These were people who were involved in many deities, as in the pagan world. In Egypt, they had many deities. Now Rashi says over here that because Moshe, when you say Zeh, then you're pointing at something. So the Sultan showed something resembling Moshe being carried in the air, like on a bed. He passed away. That in essence he died, and they're burying him. Directed us the way we should go. We need to have. So over here, all the Mefarshim say that they're not denying God, but again, like those who worship gods, they didn't deny God. They called God the God of all gods, but they need to have intermediaries. We said, go to your wives, get the earrings that they have in their ears, and your sons and your daughter, bring it to us. Why did he tell them to go to their wives? Amar Belieber, Alan said to himself, the women children found the jewelry. They're not going to want to give away the jewelry. Perhaps the matter will be delayed. In the meantime, Moshe will arrive. He'll push it off. But they didn't wait. They didn't go to their wives. Because actually the women did not participate in the golden calf. And actually they said they don't have any part in it. So therefore the men took their own earrings off. Parku, an imperative expression, the same root of perek, to take off. And that's what the verse says. The next verse number 3, name, and the people took off their golden earrings that they had in their own ears. By Yavil they came right away back. It didn't take them long. Now she says, by Yisporku is also an expression of unloading. They said, aha, now is the time to get out of the system. And they took their earrings, they were found, unloaded their earrings. They said, you know what? We're done. Moshe's not here, the leader's not here. When the leader's not here, we can do whatever we want. And they decided to, by Yisporku, they took off the responsibilities that they had. As Nizmei, Rashi says, Nizmei is the concept when you leave the air. Es Nizmei. And he took it from the hand, and he took it, he fashioned it in an engraving tool. And he made it into a golden calf. When they said, they said, this is the God of Israel, which took you out of the land of Egypt. She says this is a difficult pasuk. It says Vayotzar. Vayotzar is the clause can be rendered 2 ways. One, Vayotzar is an expression of tying. Vachoret is the expression of a kerchief, similar to the tablecloth. It's called a choret. And he tied the 2 talents of silver in 2 purses, so it's a concept of a purse. The second, Vayotz, an expression of meaning of a form. A choret is a tool. So there could be 2 meanings to this verse. Which you choret is like where you have a tool that fashions gold and silver, written forms of gold, which engraves the tablets. So it's called bachoret. The second interpretation is what Onkelos rendered with Sari Yosef Bezifa. It's a tool which people engrave the letter, the design, and designs. So 2 ways to learn this pasuk. If he actually fashioned it, or he put it into a sack. So Rashi says, Ego Masecha, as soon as the Medrash says, as soon as they cast it into the fire of the kukrbul to make it into molten gold, first, sorcerers in a mixed multitude had gone with them from Egypt, came and made it with their sorcery into an egel. Others say that Micha was there. There was a young boy Micha who emerged from the layers of the building. With this boy Micha, who Moshe Rabbeinu saved in Mitzrayim, he took him out of the wall, and he would hang around Moshe Rabbeinu. And when Moshe Rabbeinu found he needed to bring up Yosef's matzeva, he needed to bring up Yosef's Aron, where he's buried in. So Moshe Rabbeinu wrote Alei Shur, which was Yaakov Avinu said, rise up the ox. So he took that with the name of God and he threw it into the river, the Nile, and Yosef HaTzadik ascended, his coffin ascended from the river. That's what it says. The Medrash says. So he took that thing, he held it with him, and then when he saw the situation, he threw it into the fire. And Alei Shur, an ox came out, and that's the Medrash. So this ox came out on its own. So the coffin now, they casted the plate into this fire, and a calf emerged. Masecha, the expression of matris, metal. Another interpretation, 120 centers of gold were in it, like the gematria of Masecha, total 125 kuntin of gold. Eile elekecha, leinem elekenu. They didn't say this is our God. From here we learn that it was not the Jews who did this. It was a multitude who come out of Egypt, these Egyptians that came out with them, the ones who gathered against Aaron, and they were the ones who made the golden calf. And afterwards they caused the Jews to stray. So they said, listen, this is your God. And Aaron saw this, and he built an altar. And Aaron called them, and he told them, he still tried to push it off, as Rashi is going to say. He said, listen, come tomorrow morning, and we will celebrate. And Aaron saw. What did he see? So the Medrash says, he saw that this golden calf was alive. For the likeness of an ox eating grass. He saw that the Satan work was succeeding. And what can he say? He couldn't say anything. What are you going to say that when you see a golden calf walking around? Even Mizbeach, we nevertheless thought of a process how we cannot totally tell them to go and not do this, because they were showing a miracle. A miracle happened in front of their eyes. So he told them, but it will not be today. Perhaps Moshe would come before they would worship him. This is a simple meaning. Midrashic meaning in Leviticus Rabbah, it follows. Aaron saw many things. He saw his sister's son Hur, who reproved them, and they assassinated him. That is the meaning by Yiven, the expression of Bina understood. Mizbeach lefanov, he made an altar in front of him, in front of his dead person. He realized these people are forensic, and they're ready to kill. Moreover, he saw the situation. Better I should be blamed for this, and not they. So he took the total responsibility on himself. He also saw other things, as it said, they built the altar for themselves. One will bring pebbles, one will bring stones. He said, let me do the altar myself. Thus the work will be done at once. Since I will build it, I'll be neglectful in my work, and we'll slowly get this done. Chag Hashem. So here he said it's going to be a Chag Hashem. In his heart, he meant in heaven. He was confident that Moshe would come and they would worship God. So he said, Chag Hashem Mocher. It's interesting, we know that's when the Rambam says that, ultimately Moshe Rabbeinu came on the 17th day of Tammuz and he broke the Luchas, which is a fast day. But he said, Chag Hashem Mocher, that even the fast day will ultimately turn into a Chag. Verse number 7, but they got up in the morning, and they started to bring sacrifices. And they brought peace offerings. And the people sat down to eat and drink. And they got up to be merriful. She said, "V'yashkimu." Suddenly that day they woke up early. Asatim zirzem kishiachta. The Satan woke them up, the alarm clock, and they should sin. The sachek. She says, "Yesh mashoyim gilad." From here, the word "tzachek" comes to tell us that they also started to do immoral acts, sexual immoral, because that's where in the Torah, when it says "tzachek," be that it's a concept of immorality and also bloodshed. When it says "tzachek," it's also the concept of bloodshed. As it says, we find in Shmuel Beis, it says that the boys go up now and play. They played here too. They killed somebody. Chur was killed. Verse number 7. God spoke to Moses. Go down the mountain. Because your nation your people have been brought down. Your people have become corrupt, which you have brought up from the land of Egypt. She says, Lashon Koshi. It's an expression of harshness. Lech reid. One means go down. How else? You have to go down the mountain. Lech reid migdulascha. Go down from your high position. You are now demoted. I did not give you the high position only for their sake. At that time, Moshe was banished by the decree of heavenly tribunal. He told him, you cannot come. Shiches amcha. Shiches am leimem. It doesn't say the nation has been corrupted. It's your nation. People are corrupted, but your people. Those are a mixed multitude whom you accepted on your own initiative. That the Moshe Rabbeinu accepted to take the aid of Rav into the Jewish nation. God said this was your idea. It's good that converts cleave to the Shekhinah. They have act corruptly and they corrupt others. They went quickly away from the way. Which I commanded them. They made a golden calf. They bowed down to it. They offered sacrifice to it. When they said, they said this to the God of Israel. God said to Moshe, he says, I see this nation. This nation is a stiff-necked nation. She says this is a description of stubbornness. They turned the hardness of their backs, of their necks, towards those who reprove them. And they refused to listen. Therefore, leave me alone. My anger will be kindled against them. I will annihilate them. I'll make you into a great nation. She says, the Abish says, leave me alone. It's unclear why God is saying this. Implies that Moshe had been something demanding him or something. It doesn't say that. We don't hear Moshe Rabbeinu pray there. Yet God says, leave me alone. But here, Moshe Rabbeinu realized that he opened the door to him to inform him that the matter indeed is upon him. If he wants to pray for them, he has that power. And if Moshe Rabbeinu would pray for them, God, would not destroy them. And therefore, Moshe Rabbeinu pleaded by God. And he said to him, why have you kindled your anger against your nation? Which you took out of the land of Egypt. With a great strength, with a strong hand. Now she says, is anyone jealous of another except of a wise man and of a wise man? A strong man of a strong man, but these are weak people. Why are you getting angry on weak people? Why should the Egyptians say, he brought them out with evil? To kill them in the mountains, to annihilate them from the face of the earth. Retreat from your hate of your anger, and reconsider the evil intent of your people. Now she said, formulate another thought. I hate to them to do good to them. Which you thought about. Remember Abraham, Isaac, and Israel. Your servant, Asher, which you made a promise to them, Bach, within yourself. And you said to them, I will multiply their seed like the stars of the heaven. In all this land, Mighty, which I have said, I'll give to their offseeds, and they'll inherit it forever. Now she says, if you argue to transgress the 10 commandments, let me remind you that the forefathers wasn't tested with 10 tests, and yet they did not receive a reward. You owe still the reward to their fathers. Give this reward to him, Abraham, so that 10 will cancel the 10. The 10 tests will cancel the 10 commandments. If they are condemned to be burnt in fire, remember Abraham, who gave himself over to be burnt for the sake of Ukazdim. If they're condemned to be killed by the sword, remember Isaac, who stretched out his neck when he was bound. If they're condemned to exile, remember Jacob, who was exiled to Haran. If the children of Israel will be saved in their patriarch's merit, why do you say to me, and I'll make you a great nation? If a chair with 3 legs cannot stand up before you, when you get angry, how can a chair with 1 leg stand? Here we have Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and they cannot protect their own children. How will I be able to protect the whole nation if I'll be alone? You did not swear to them by something finite, but by the heavens, not by the heavens or by the earth, not by the mountains nor by the hills, but you said it in yourself. For you exist, and your oath exists forever. So you're stuck with the oath that you made to the patriarchs. As it says to Abraham, myself I've sworn, says the Eibishter. To Isaac, he said, I will establish the oath that I swore to Abraham, your father. To Jacob, he said, I am the mighty God, be fruitful and multiply. Here you swore to Jacob by the name of the Almighty God. Nikel Shakai. And the Eibishter rescinded the evil that he would want to do for his people. Moshe ben Ahar. Moshe made a turn and went down the mountain. He had two tablets of testimony in his hand. They were written from both sides. This was the miracle of these tablets. Now she says the letters could be read. This was miraculous phenomena. They were read both sides equally. And these tablets, the work of God, they were written by God Himself. It was inscribed, engraved on the tablets. Now she says this is an interpretation according to its apparent meaning, that He personally made them, so to say. Another interpretation, like a person who says to his friend, also and so activities of such and such of work, so too, all the delight of the Holy One, blessed be He, is with the Torah. Ma'aseh, these are the work of God. The Eibishter is God alone. As we always say, the Eibishter says, God says, Anecha, no nafshi ksavis Yehovah, I've written, I've given to you myself. I'm sorry, the term choros is product. One who is the same, that means you have inscribed on, engraved in. Both the expression of engraving. Yeshua's Kailam, and Yeshua heard the sound of the people. Berea in its evil. Moshe said to him, I hear a voice of battle in the camp. Now she says, Berea beharia, in its shouting. Sorry, Berea is in its shouting, not in its evil. I hear a voice of rejoicing, shouting, rejoicing, laughing. Moshe said to him, I neither hear a voice of shouting of victory, neither hear shouting of defeat. I hear a voice of blasphemy. I hear. Like Yeshua didn't know what was going on, but Moshe knew already what was going on. The voice does not appear to be a voice of shouting of heroes, crying victory, or a voice of weak soldiers crying, woe, let's run away. I hear a verse of blasphemy and reveling. Nefesh, which distress the soul of the one who hears them when they are said to him. When they came closer to the camp, they saw the calf, the machelis, and their dancing. Moshe Rabbeinu got angry. He dropped his luchos. He broke it underneath the mountain. He said to himself, if regard the sacrifice of Pesach, which merely one commandment, the Torah says, no estranged may partake in it. Now the entire Torah is the 10 commandments, including the whole Torah, and all the Jews have become apostate. Shall I give it to them? And he broke it, Tachas Ahar, underneath the mountain. Verse 20, he took this golden calf, Ashasu, which they made by Yisrael, she burnt it in the fire. By Yitchan, and he grounded it at a duck until it was fine powder. By Yizah Pnei, and he scattered on the surface of the water. By Yishak, as Bnei Yisrael, he told the Jewish people to drink from this water. By Yizah Lashon Nifutz, his expression of scattering. By Yishak Bnei Yisrael, he intended to test them like a woman suspect of adultery. This was the water of the Saita. So we find, Rashi says that 3 different death penalties were meted out here. One, if there were witnesses to the worship and warning had been used to the sinner. So that's what we see. He took the sword and he killed them. According to the law, people that worshiped an idol, Torah says he has to be put to death if there was witnesses and a warning. 2, those who practice idolatry with witnesses but without a warning died from the plague. As it says, the Lord struck the people of the plague. Those who practice idolatry without witnesses and without a warning died from dropsy, when the water that tested them and the stomach swell, which is the later on we'll learn the story, the laws of a Satan. So now I said there were 3 things over here, and that's what happened. Moshe turned to Aaron and said, what have these people done to you? You brought upon them a great sin. Now says, how many tortures did Aaron endure that they tortured you until you brought the sin upon them? Listen, that Moshe Rabbeinu got to not get angry. You know, the people, they're disposed towards evil. Now says they're always going to bad directions, testing God. It said the make a mess of God. Will go before me, because Moshe, this man that took us out of Egypt, we don't know what happened to him. Verse 24, I said to them, who has gold? Hisparku, take it off. And they gave me all this gold. I threw it into fire. And this golden calf came out of this fire. She said one word only, who has gold? And that was it. I didn't have to say more than who has gold. And everybody gave me the gold. I didn't know that this golden calf would come out, but it came out. Verse 25. Who Moshe Rabbeinu saw the people and they were exposed. They were naked. Aaron exposed them to the disgrace before the adversaries. Actually, the word faruah, is megula, covered, the shame and disgrace was revealed. The shimtza b'kameim. Actually, this was the thing that the disgrace for them, the mouths of all rise against them and say, look, they are sinners. Look at people that have done this golden calf. Moshe Rabbeinu stood at the gate of the camp. And he said, Mila Hashem Elai, who is to God, should come to me. Levi, and all the tribe of Levi came to gather to him. Mila Hashem Elai, Yavi Elai, come to me. Kobane Levi. From here we learn that the tribe of Levi were all righteous. He said to them, this is what God says. Each one of you should take a sword and put it on his side. Even if you should go from gate to gate. You should kill. Each man is brother, each man is friend, each man is kinsman. Asher ve'echanama, where did God say this? So Rashi said it's a pasuk. Zevech him yachav, who slaughters a sacrifice to gods shall be destroyed. That's what's learned in Mechilta. Achiv mi'imay v'hu Yisrael. His mother, who was an ordinary Israelite and not a Levite. So Achiv, you can have a brother if you can have a step brother. If your mother married, if this Levi's mother was married to an Israelite beforehand, and he had a son, then he's an Israelite. Now she married a Levite, and he's a Levi. So his step brother, his half brother, could be a regular Jew, and he's a Levi. Yasmin a Levi, and the Levies did that because these are the people they killed that they knew that was witnesses, and there was a warning that they shouldn't do this. And they killed that day 3,000 people who had witnesses and warning. Verse 29, initiate yourself today to the Lord, because each man and his brother, in his son and his brother, so that he may bestow upon you a blessing today. Rashi said you kill them, and this thing act will be initiate yourself to be servants to Kahanim. Here's where everything changed. Changed from the firstborn to the Kahanim would be not from the firstborn. Amongst you will initiate yourself amongst your sons through his brother. It was the next day. Moshe said to the people, you did a great sin. I'll go up to God, and maybe he will forgive you on your sin. Now she says this means I'll place a cleansing, a wiping away, and a barrier opposite your sin to separate you. What your sin is separating yourself from God. Moshe went up the next day, the 18th day of Tammuz. He went up. People did a great sin. And they made himself a god of gold. Now she says, Moshe Rabbeinu tried to use this tactic. He threw the blame on God. Moshe is saying, you caused them to sin. You lavished them with gold and whatever they desired. What should they have done with all this? What should done so as not to sin? Maybe illustrated a parable of a king who gave his son to eat and drink, dressed him up, and hung him in cords around his neck, and stationed him at the entrance of a brothel. And what do you expect from your son if you're going to give him everything and give him all the money in the world, and you're going to put him in a candy store and expect him not to eat candy? Now, if you forgive their sins, and if you don't forgive their sins, I want you to erase me from the Torah that you have written. Good. I will not ask you to erase me, but if not, erase me. I want you to erase my name from the entire Torah. Why? So they would not say about me that I was unworthy to beg mercy for them. I don't want to be somebody who doesn't have the capability to ask forgiveness. And if I don't have the capability to ask forgiveness, then the whole concept of the Torah is a concept of forgiveness. So therefore, I don't want to be part of it. God said to Moshe, one who sinned against me, I will erase from my book. Now, go down, lead the people which I have spoken to you. I'm going to send my angel to before you. And I'll bring this sin on account against them. When I will make an accounting, I'll bring this sin in front of them. Here we find a lamed. Ela dibur speech, a lie. Let my angel go, not me. Now I have listened to you, not to destroy them all at once, but always, always. when I take an accounting of their sins, I will count as little of the sin with the other sins. I'll always put the egel together with other situations. This means no punishment before Israel in which is not a part of the punishment of the sin of the golden calf. Verse 35, Vayigav Hashem esam asher asos egel, and then they able to plague the people. Asher asan, which Adam made. Asher misi de shemayim. This is the misa, the death from heaven, that happens to a person that does a sin with witnesses and without warning, which Rashi mentioned before. Chapter 33, verse number 1. God spoke to Moses, saying, go, descend from here. You and your nation that you took out of Egypt. To the land that I made a promise to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Lamar, which I said, Lezaracha, to your offsprings, and then I'll give you. Now she says, Lech Aleim Mizeh. The land of Israel is higher than all other lands. That is why it says ascend. Another explanation is conscious to what it said before Moshe, in time of anger, go descend. It's time of goodwill, and God says, go Lech Alei. Before I told you to go down, now I tell you to go up. The Abishah forgave the Jewish people. Atava Kan over here, it doesn't say your people, it says the nation. I'll send an angel before you. I will drive away the Canaanites. I'll chase all these 6 nations. Now she says it says 6 nations. We know there's 7 nations because the Grisha got up and immigrated before the Israelites came. So the one nation disappeared before the Jewish people came. I'll bring you to a land of milk and honey. But I will not go in your midst. You are a stiff-necked nation. At least I destroy you on the way. Now she says, I'll tell you to take them, the Jewish people, up. Therefore I tell you, I'll send an angel before you. You are a stiff-necked nation. And when the Shekhinah is in your midst and you rebel against me, it's not a good situation. Then it's an expression of destruction. And even the people heard this terrible news. They mourn. And no one put on his finery. What does that mean? Now she says, first of all, they heard the Shekhinah will not rest with them. That's terrible. Number 2, they took off their crowns that they were given on Mount Sinai. The 2 crowns that they got for Nasav and Ishmael, they took it off. God said to Moshe, tell the Jewish people, I think sharp shade of your stiff-necked nation. If I come in your midst for a second, and I will destroy you. You took off your crowns, from you, and I'll know what to do. Now she says, if I go up in your midst and you rebel against me with stubbornness again, I will be furious with you in one moment, which is the measure of my wrath. So therefore, but now this punishment will suffer immediately. You will suffer immediately. You'll take off your finery. With this visitation of the rest of the sin, I'll know what in my heart to do. But it's not to and the Jewish people took off the finery, the crowns that they had put upon themselves on a mountain on the time of Mount Sinai. Finery was a possession of Mount Sinai. Moshe Rabbeinu took his tent. He moved out of the community. He moved very far away from the community. He called his tent a tent of meeting. And whoever wanted to search God, would go out to the tent of meeting, which is out of the camp. He moved out of the community. Now she says, from that moment on, he moved out. This present tense, meaning that he would take his tent and pitch it outside the camp. He said, one who is banished from the master is banished from his disciples. He went 2,000 cubits, like the matter stated, but you shall not distance yourself 2,000 cubits, over a mile. He called it a tent of meeting, that is the house of meeting, Torah. Call him Avakash Hashem. Whoever we can, from here we learn the one who seeks the presence of a sage is tantamount to seek the presence of the Shekhinah. The one who wanted to seek Moshe Rabbeinu was like looking for God. Yetze el el meid. Yetze will go out. Yetze would go out. Another interpretation is, and it would be anyone seeking the Lord, even the ministering angels, when they would ask for the place of the Shekhinah, then the companion would say, "Behold, it's in Moshe's tent." So when they would ask in heaven, "Where is the Shekhinah? Where's the presence of God?" And the answer is, it's in the Moshe Rabbeinu's tent. Verse number 8. You can taste Moshe Aleil. And Moshe Rabbeinu went out to the tent. And all the people would stand up. And they would gaze upon Moshe Rabbeinu until he came into the tent. His own tent. He'd leave the Beis Hamikdash, he would go home. When he went out of the camp to go to the tent, they would stand before him and not sit down until he concealed from them. This is admiration. They would say, "Fortune is the one born to a woman who is assured by God that the Shekhinah follow him to the entrance of his tent." And when Moshe Rabbeinu entered his tent, the pillar of cloud would descend and stand at the entrance of his tent. V'dibur Moshe would speak to Moshe. Rashi says, V'dibur Moshe would speak to Moshe in the present tense, like he would speak to Moshe. Medaber, one reads Medaber, it means it's speaking to him. And the entire people would see this pillar of cloud. Come, the people would stand up, they would bow down, they realize the Eibush, the Shekhinah, presence of God, is in Moshe Rabbeinu's tent. God spoke to Moshe upon him. The Eibush spoke to Moshe face to face, like a man stands and speaks to his friend. And he returned to the camp. When he returned to the camp, Moshe Yeshua ben Nun, Nar, and Yeshua ben Nun, who was a lad, never left the tent. Ashi said, "B'dibur Mahalal" is the concept of speaking. After he spoke to him, Moshe Rabbeinu returned to the camp to teach the elders what he learned from Moshe. Conducted himself in this way from Kippur until the Mishkan was erected, but no more than that. The 17th of Tammuz, tablets are broken. On the 18th, he burned the calf and the judged the sinners. On the 19th, I said before the 18th. On the 19th, he went back up on Mount Sinai. As it said, it came to pass. The next day, Moshe went up. He spent there 40 days there and begged for mercy. As it says, I cast myself before the Lord. On Rosh Chodesh Elul, it was said to him, and in the morning you shall ascend to Mount Sinai to receive the second tablets. He spent another 40 days there. As it's said concerning them, and I remained upon the mountain just of the first days. Just of the first day, the first ones were with goodwill, from the 17th day of Nisivan to the 7th day of Tammuz. So the last ones were goodwill. We made deduce that in the immediate ones were with wrath. So the first, the second, 30, 40 days were tough days. On the 10th of Tishrei was the end of the third 40 days. Blessed, the Holy One, blessed be He, was a peace to Israel, joyfully and wholeheartedly. And he said to Moshe, I have forgiven, have you spoken. See, God gave him second tablets, and Moshe descended the mountain, and God began commanding him soon to work of the Mishkan. And that was the chronological order of what happened. They constructed the Mishkan they started to bring everything from the 11th day of Tishrei, and they constructed it until the 1st of Nisan. So it was Tishrei, Cheshvan, Kislev, Teves, Shvat, Adar, Nisan. Actually, wrote down they finished it actually already in Chafei, Kislev. That's how fast they did this Mishkan. From the 11th day of Tishrei till Chaf Hey Kislev. They already finished the entire Mishkan on Chaf Hey Kislev, on the 25th day of Kislev. The Abisha said you should not erect it until the first day of Nisan. So from Kislev, the 25th day of Kislev, Tevish, Shvat, Adar, they didn't erect the Mishkan. And the first day of Nisan was the first day of the erection of the Mishkan. So until the first of Nisan, and once it was erected, he no longer spoke to him except the 10th of meeting. So that's when it happened that ultimately in the Beis Hamikdash David spoke. But until then, till his Chodesh Nisan, the Moshe Rabbeinu's tent was the tent of meeting between him and God. From the 11th day of from the 10th day of when he came down the mountain, the 10th day of Tishrei, until the Chodesh Nisan. That's what these psukim are talking about. With the oil, his tent became, so to say, tent of meeting. V'shavel Amachna, Aramaic with Tavel and Mishasa, meaning he returned to the camp, because in the present tense, and so in Aramaic entire section, all the people would see, and they would stand, and they would gaze, and they would prostrate themselves. This is the simple meaning of the verse, which depicts Moshe's usual conduct from after Yom Kippur until the Mishkan was erected. Every day, he went to his tent out of the camp, would come into the camp, give his lessons, his shir, learn with the people, and go back to his tent. And the Lord spoke to Moshe that he would return to the camp. The Lord said to him, "I am angry, and you are angry. Who will bring them near to me?" And therefore, maybe that's why Moshe Rabbeinu always came back to the camp, even though Moshe Rabbeinu was angry and God was angry. But Moshe Rabbeinu understood. David said to him, "You're angry and I'm angry, and what's going to be with the people? So you got to go back to the camp. You got to go back to the Jews. We got to bring them back." And that's what he did. That completes the Chumash for today. Okay, we're holding the Tanya, the middle of the 30th chapter of Tanya. The Alter Rebbe says, you have to be humbled before all men. You have to be humbled even before a sinner, even if you meet a person that's a total sinner. Because a person cannot judge a person till he's in Bekoima, he's in his situation, right? But if the misdeeds of a Kal Shabakal means if a person, meet a person, that has terrible sins, and I attribute to his environment and to his passionate nature, why did it deserve that? So why are you talking negative about him? That he's Kal Shabakal. Why do you do this? That we call him the Kal Shabakal, the people that does easily affected by the world. They're easily affected by their environment. Some of us, that's why it's called Kal Shabakalim. And Kal means easy of easy. That means you're basically a person that is affected so by your environment that you're such an easily affected person. You're a person that has no backbone. That's one of the beauties of Am Kshe'erefu, that we have a backbone. That's what kept us going through Gullus. That's a positive statement that we are Am Kshe'eref, that we have a stiff neck. But then we have people that are seemingly easily affected by the world. They Kal Shabakalim, they're easy of the easy. Because in truth, even one who's extremely passionate by nature, and whose livelihood and his livelihood obligates him to sit on the street corners. So you have people that they put themselves, due to their parnasa, whatever, they put themselves into an environment that they shouldn't be. Or environment, I'm sorry to take that back, and they put themselves in environment they have to be. Because that's their parnasa. Their parnasa is to stand out in the street. That's what the Gemara says. The Gemara wants to talk about people that are affected by the world, is people that hang out in the streets. So what do you expect a person that's hanging out in the streets and sees everything else that's happening there? that he should not be affected. So I am supposed to always look at a person I'm not supposed to be negative about him. I'd say, listen, he's working in the streets. He's a street worker. What do you expect from a person that's a street worker? That's not an excuse for the person himself, but that's my judge, not to be judgmental, but the person himself doesn't make a difference. Whatever panasa the Eibishter puts you in, whatever situation God puts you in, he didn't put you in a situation that you cannot overcome. Nobody, the Alter Rebbe says, I'm not giving you a free pass for your sins. There's no excuse for sinning. Nobody should sin. Whether he's a person that's sitting in yeshiva all day, that sees only svarim, or whether it's a businessman that goes out into the world and he sees things because he's in the world. And therefore, don't blame it on your environment. Don't blame it. That's not my point over here. Everybody should say, you know what? What do you want? I'm a person who sits in the street. I'm a person who sees things because that's my life. I need to see things. I need to look at things. I'm in business. I need to use the computer. What should I do? It's my life. How can I work in my life without the computer? So I'm going to see things maybe I shouldn't see. No, that's not an excuse. Taki, you have to look at the computer. You're in business. You got to look at things. But the second something comes up on the computer that you should not look at, you shouldn't look at it. Oh, but you can't say, but wait a second, that's my job. It's not your job. Your job is to not to look at things you shouldn't look at. Your job is to do panasa, make panasa, but the things you're not allowed to look at, you're not allowed to look at. Because if you look at it, make it Rasha Gomer. Consider that that moment you consider a wicked person. Why is the person called a wicked person? Because you don't have the fear of God. God is right there sitting with you at the computer. And he's sitting with you, watching what you're watching. And I don't have the fear of God, that God is sitting right next to me. Because he should have controlled himself. And to restrain himself, the feeling of the desires of his heart. He's like a hot guy. And he might just say, listen, what do you want? I'm not a cult in the shama. I am a hot person. I have passion. Whatever. It's when I see something I shouldn't see, that's normal. I'm not a tzaddik. But then the second I see it, I have to push it away. That's a skafia. As the Alter Rebbe taught us, the skafia means that I have that I see something that's natural. But the point is, the second I see it, I need a loisasuru. I have to push it away. Because the fear of God, David is standing right over here. He's watching you. He's saying you, what are you watching? What are you looking at? As I explained further previously, that the fear of God would have enabled him to overcome his desire, despite the difficulty imposed by the surrounding of his nature. For explained before, the mind has supremacy over the heart by the nature of one's birth. So therefore, mind over heart, mind over my eyes, mind over my desires. Meaning it's man's inborn characteristic that his mind is able to master his heart and to restrain the desires of his heart. So the Eibishter, we should in essence realize when God, even though you're right, God gave me this challenge, and God gives me the challenge because it's a situation in my life, I had to be in this situation for whatever reason. But the point is, they're able to put me in this situation, so I overcome it. So I'll be able to push it away and not say, you know what should I do? I'm in this situation. No, you're in this situation. So you show the power that you have to show that I have mind over matter, mind over heart. And that completes the Tanya of the day. So we've completed the Tanya for today. Today is the 17th day of the month, which is chapter 83, chapter 87. If you do those 5 chapters of Tillim, you do the chitas of the day. Sure, a good day, a happy day, a healthy day. We'll see you tomorrow morning, 8 o'clock. We'll continue the chitas of the day.